So the ASU strike has lasted more than half of this year already. It's been going on for several months, and it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. And I just don't understand how such a basic, a crucial part of just the foundation of institutions. I mean, the foundation of all other institutions, education, because it's sort of the education and um, the the sort of the qualification the of the populace that sort of sets up all the other institutions. That's what backs up. That's what feeds into all the other institutions. That's what feeds into all the other organizations and everything that we have, all the other systems that are in the government. So I don't understand something so basic um as guaranteeing that the university sessions are ongoing, how something like that could just fall by the wayside for such a long period of time, especially at a time when there is like an election, burgeoning. You would think that because of the time that we're at, where we have all these contending parties that are trying to win an election, you would think that would make the obviousness of it so clear. That would make it so, everybody would want to say, oh, this is my suggestion for the fixing the university strike. Let's get these graduates finished. Let's get our institutions solid and strong and all that. You would think that it would become a priority, but it doesn't at all. It doesn't even matter. Um, it also just makes it more clear that, that this is not these are not the institutions that that the society sits on. Because a lot of in other contexts, in other countries, it's the it's they recruit everything they need, whether it's the intelligence agencies, whether it's they take all that from the institutions. And so it's important to them that those places are solid. And the university system is what a lot of the sort of the hospitals, that's where they feed from. They have the teaching hospitals, everything is that's sort of the bedrock of everything else, is the educational system. And so it would never be ignored. The idea that they're not in session, they're not doing anything, that would never be ignored. But apparently in Nigeria, if that's the case, that is just business as usual. It doesn't seem to be that anyone is even making a priority to go to them and to say, I can fix the problem, I can do this. Of the ones that are contending, with the exception of maybe a couple of them, there's really not a lot of talk about, what the solutions are to offer in order to make themselves more attractive to voters. Um, that's not a good thing. So, I mean, whatever the solutions might be, it's just, I mean, I think if it's about, they need to come up with all the different scenarios that the issue can be solved in, whether it's more even if they have to sort of change the mechanism by that they solve the problem through. To me, it just seems like, since this happens every few years, I think that the entire process is just, the setup of the process is just flawed, and there needs to be a different setup that makes it easier to solve, that makes it easier to accomplish solutions and not bring everything to a deadlock so much. And some of that could be just allocating the responsibility, the management and the funding and all that more on a state basis, because if that was done, then everybody wouldn't be um in a deadlock at once. Maybe some states would be at some times, and then others might be at, for one reason or the other, some, but it wouldn't be everybody. It wouldn't be all the universities in the country all at the same time, which is really crazy and really unfortunate and really sad. I mean, it's really a sad statement to say that like none of the public universities in Nigeria are in session. And that's been the case for most of this year. Come on. I mean, that's a tragedy. It's just seems like it makes it that we're not serious about such things. And I know that we like to complain that that's because, so many of the politicians' kids don't patronize the university of this country anyway. They end up sending them abroad. But I mean, even then, most Nigerians just do patronize those universities, and that's where, that's where the politicians are in charge of. So they are charged with the responsibility of looking after those universities. They're charged with the responsibility of making sure that those public universities are, they're not supposed to be only feeding to public universities in other countries. Helping fund the public universities elsewhere by turning naira into dollars, to do that. They're supposed to make sure that the one that they're responsible for in the public universities that they're responsible for looking after, that they're looking after those ones first, that's the priority. And using funds to send their kids to the to pay for other countries' universities is secondary. But yeah, I mean, so there just needs to be more conversation about why the deadlock is always there, and how to mitigate it, not just now, not just like, but just in the future, so that it doesn't happen again. Because for the last, I mean, I don't know however many years, it seems like there's always a strike. Every so many months, there's going to be one. I don't understand. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for these young people to focus on their education if, like, over the period of 7 years that they finish a bachelor's degree, and the entire time, there was like a 6-10 month strike every other year or something like that. I mean, that's insane. So they need to look after the issues in a way that doesn't make it so vulnerable to that problem, that doesn't make it so. And it's so then it becomes, so it's not just in agreeing one time, in agreeing on what to do now, but just in coming up with a system where the issue can be negotiated in a better way, so that it doesn't come up to a deadlock all the time. I mean, it's hard because it just seems like the those in the political sphere don't really care about the education of the youth, and that's, I mean, maybe they don't need them to be educated to vote for them. I mean, some of them may not even want them, may not care, because rather have people they can control more easily. So they may not even care to empower them, because if they're more empowered, then they will not be zombies. They will not go along with whatever a crappy politician wants from them. It will not be easy to give a bag of rice to get them to vote, or whatever, whatever petty bribes are offered often to get votes. They will not accept that. So in any case, yeah, so hopefully that strike comes to an end soon this year, and it doesn't go into next year, because that would be, I don't understand what that would say about the country, that they just can have public universities out of session for that long. I mean, there's no point. There's no value in the public university system if they can just be on strike every other year for one reason or the other, for long enough periods of time, up to a year or something like that. There's no reason for anybody to have confidence in just bothering with those universities at all. It just makes more, if it's going to be like that, it makes more sense for everybody to just shut it down, then shut down the whole system, if it's that broken. If the system is so broken and so unreliable, then what's the point? So I mean, these are their lives that are being wasted, and there's discouragement happens if things don't don't move along as planned, and they can't plan for their lives. They'll just get discouraged. They'll just get pulled into something else, maybe pulled into bad activities like stealing and kidnapping and all these issues that we have, it's so easy for them to get pulled into all sorts of vices like, you know, banditry and whatever else, terrorism. I mean, that sounds extreme that a person would get pulled into, but it's easy. I mean, it's not a wealthy country, and their universities constantly on strike, and it's just they can just get pulled into all sorts of directions that are not good, and then and then we'll have to spend more to deal with that. Then we'll have to spend to deal with the banditry and spend to deal with all this other stuff when we could have just taken care of, looked after the issue of just keeping these young people where they ought to be, doing something with their lives at the university, post-university, whatever, keep them engaged in those things that are right, that are good for them, that are healthy, instead of just ignoring, leaving all that to go, and then complaining once you have kidnapping, complaining once you have just banditry, and and all these other problems, complaining after the fact, but doing nothing and when schools are on strike for a year, which is terrible. So those are things we need to do stuff about and look after, so that we can not just complain after the fact, after things go awry.